That stuff over here.
Oh, okay.
Over here.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the December 7th Pearl Harbor Day.
See, I'm telling you, there's always something with this thing. So it makes sense. Okay,
Tell me when.
it's live.
Are we live now? Okay, good. No reverb. All right, so I'll start over again.
At the risk, if you want to click the volume on the right bottom, yeah, fill that, you should be fine.
All right, we'll try one more time. Wednesday, December 7th, 7 p.m. at City Hall, Emerald Hill Lane. This is the City of Westminster Historic District Commission. And we're having our monthly meeting tonight. Let's do a quick roll call from that end of the table. Chris Amadori.
Josh Chambers.
Krista McMasters.
Kevin Wagman.
And for city staff, we have
Mark Depot, the Director of Community Planning and Development.
Melissa Thorne, the Economic Development Coordinator.
and welcome Melissa, you're new. It's great to see you.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
All right, let's start with our calling to order with a statement of authority. The Westminster Historic District Commission derives its authority from Chapter 164, Article 9A of the City Code, which is authorized by the Maryland Code Annotated Land Use Article, Division 1, Single Jurisdiction Planning and Zoning, Title 8 of Historic Preservation. The qualifications of the Westminster Historic District Commission are on file at the City Administration Building at 45 West Main Street. The file is open to the public. And thank you everyone for being here. Let's start with old business. Item A, an update on the Historic District Commission proposed historic preservation communication memo. Do you have any news, Mark, other than what we've shared?
No, it's still looking at a January timeframe. I haven't gotten any update as to a sooner or an earlier time.
All right, so I know I've shared with you, Mark, but it's just, I know it's very frustrating that you're short of staff, but it should be clear that we're going to miss a couple of important deadlines for grants. And to me, that's really unfortunate because they're annual grants. And the one I'm thinking of that would really help is with the implementation of the review of our historic resources. That grant is with the Maryland heritage areas, with the Heart of the Civil War heritage area. And one reason why I thought we would compete very highly for that grant is that in our current historic documentation for the National Register, there's not one word about Corbett's charge. Not one word, and yet it attenuates us to the Heart of the Civil War heritage area. And that was just a really huge oversight in our documentation. And so I think the Heart of the Civil War heritage area would come up with 50% of the cost of doing our supplement to the historic documentation. It was done in 1978, so we're coming up on 50 years. And there's also a big push for 250th anniversary Revolutionary War type of projects. I think we could package this as part of the Heart of the Civil War and Rev War, because there's some Rev War resources in town. Not many, but a few. The other 50% could be covered by the American Battlefield Protection Program. Again, attenuating to Corbett's charge, our only engagement. And they normally have a drop dead date of about January 13th. And both these grant applications, I did a time trial when I ran the American Battlefield Protection Program. It was a 40-hour effort to put the grants together because you have to get a lot of letters of support. And it wouldn't be just from the mayor. You'd look from senators, you'd look from nearby parks like Gettysburg to, endorse it. So you have to have the grant assembled for people to write letters of endorsement. And they may need a couple of weeks to come up with a good letter. So it just has me very concerned that we're going to miss this year's grant round and we'll have to wait another whole year to make this pitch. And as we wait another whole year, we're that much closer to the 250th and there'll be a lot more competition. So I just wanted that kind of out there. One reason why my hair's on fire is that,
Is the first one you mentioned, is that a matching or is that?
yeah, it'll require a match, and that's why we would go to the American Battlefield Protection Program for the other 50%.
I gotcha.
And the best thing about the American Battlefield Protection Program is it's actually 100%er. But its timing is before the MHAA. And if the city were to commit to 50% of this study, we could wait a few more weeks. But I'm estimating the study will be between $50,000 and $70,000. That's a lot of money for the city to cover for a couple of weeks delay. Or a year. So it's all part of the calculations of, you know, how we move forward on the implementation suggestions. Okay. Anything else from our folks here? No. No. All right, let's move on into new business. Okay. So we have a review of a request from Amy's Laundry at 273 East Main Street. And Melissa has written, do I read this right? Melissa's written a staff recommendation. Would you like to present that to us?
Sure, I would. I was hoping to have a PowerPoint presentation to go along with this, but there's something about formatting a disk. And because of time, we're not gonna worry about it. So we have the documents in front of us here. It was just a pretty representation of the same thing. So we have Amy Duty here in the audience. And she, as you mentioned, with Amy's Laundry, which is on East Main Street. And the city received an initial submittal of a simplified site plan in May. And it includes a proposed addition to the existing laundromat. So what you have in front of you is the simplified site plan. There are 4 pages to that. The first page shows this addition. It's 1,879 square feet, and it's at the rear of the property. So East Main Street. And to go along with this, I have some pictures. You can take a look at those. So referencing the pictures now, we've got, so you can see the architecture and the building, how it looks today with a grassy lot in the front. Amy has proposed a landscaping design in the front of garden park. And I love the mural, by the way. It's really neat. And if you flip it over, you can see how the peak of the roof is. It's a white painted brick with a shingled roof. So the proposed addition is to match the architecture that's already there. It will be connected to the exterior of the building. The lighting proposed is in line with lighting in the downtown historic district, with the gooseneck fixtures above the doors facing along the east of the building, and the under canopy eave fixtures on the south face of the building. No additional signage is proposed with this addition. So we're here tonight in the spirit of bringing to your attention, this body's attention, any sort of extra exterior projects that are going on in the historic district. And this is one of the first ones that has come up. And we're recommending that you review the simplified site plan and the architecture for this addition.
And if I could, this really came up at 288 East Main and staff student to the HDC that in addition, a new development we bring to you for review and comment. The other element we look for, I think would be helpful is, would this be a project that might be eligible? You know, this is almost a concept review for facade improvement grants or historic tax credit. Because again, we start to go through building permit and construction steps. So this is the first time through this concept of, addition or new development in downtown, that just reaching out to the HDC just for feedback, general feedback.
So if you don't mind, just a point of privilege, I'd like to share with you what I do know about that property. This will just kind of be couching. So this particular property is on one of the 3 original streets that were laid out in the 1760s. Main Street was known as King Street. And so it was pre-Revolutionary War. Church and Bishop were the others. So you're right in the heart of the original 20 lots laid out on White's Level by William Winchester. So that's pretty cool. You're as original as possible. And now the building itself is a replacement. I remember when the previous building burned down in the late 1990s. So that structure itself doesn't really have any historic character. But I will say the lot certainly does. And one character of that lot that may or may not be captured at some point is that that was the space where the blacksmith was, who had 30 to 40 horses during the Civil War, July 29th, 1863. And Jeb Stuart decided to bring down the cavalry and stop there and pick up 40 fresh horses. First Delaware and some New York boys were guarding the crossing at McDaniel for the railroad crossing. And they heard Confederates were coming and they thought they were stragglers. So they launched 160 of them into battle action against Jeb Stuart's cavalry of 6,000. It was a little bit lopsided, but that was Corbett's charge. And your property was the key terrain or the target of the whole thing. I would love someday to see a sign there somewhere. Just so people see the arrows going to your sidewalk, if nothing else, that says this is what Corbett's Charge is all about. This is
like one of
property.
those metal signs. I live in Woodbine and you go to the parking lot and there's a sign and people stop and read it about the, I'd be happy to.
Well, the
have
Civil
that
War
sign.
Trails organization,
Yep.
they talked with me last year. They want to redo all the signs in town because they're all dated. Some of them are kind of damaged and destroyed. And if you're willing, I might get them to contact you because, you know, they have to make all kinds of agreements and arrangements and stuff. But there would be people gawking on your sidewalk, looking at your sign and they're folding laundry, you know?
No, we love it.
So it's a thought, but your property is so critically important, just to know that. And I know you're talking a little bit about a garden in the front, but that might have some traces of the original historic blacksmith. And I would hate to see it all torn up because any archaeological stuff underneath, that might be compromised. The same with the pad in the back. It's a concrete pad. It's probably from a later occupation, not from the blacksmith. Concrete postdates the 20th century. But all I can say is that history won't stop what you're doing and shouldn't, to be honest, from what I can see. But you should just know this as a property owner, that you have a very cool parcel. Super cool.
I'd be happy to put a sign out there because it's not, the idea for the front isn't to tear anything up. It's to have a couple of picnic tables, a place for people to sit and rest, have a little lunch. You know,
A little
and so,
pocket park kind of feel.
so a sign there would be really neat. I would be more than happy to entertain that.
I don't have the power to promise, but I can say
I can give
that,
them my phone number.
yeah,
That would be
I might do that gluing together if you're at all interested. But I'm not sure if the city even knew that history. But that is
I
really,
did not, that was interesting.
did you like that? I used to tell stories for a living, so there you go. All right, so as far as your actual application, and I know we're in a time crunch here, I really don't have any questions about it. Does any of your commissioners have any concerns or questions?
I just have a question. I like the idea of a garden. I'm just thinking, because I've seen it, if you want to put picnic benches, first of all, I don't know if you need permission for that or not. But if you want to have a park and you start putting picnic benches, it might maybe take away from the aesthetics you're trying to create there with a nice garden area. I don't, you know.
Seems like when a bench goes up, so does someone sleeping on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, because they can get out of here. So.
And yeah, and it would.
If you look at the plan, one of the landscaping was the outer edges of that open space with the center being empty or vacant. It's just long, so that's where the big tables kind of would go. So you have the exterior, surrounding it.
think,
And unfortunately, the landscaping is a requirement of the ordinance.
is it? Okay.
Yes.
No. You kind of have to feel how it works best. Kevin, do you have any questions or concerns? No. Do I hear a motion about accepting this?
Oh, yeah, I'm happy to mention that we accepted it for the.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, second,
Is there any further concerns or questions? Personally, I think everything I see is great.
Thank you.
That's not gonna happen very often. These guys are probably shocked.
And keep my number, you have my name now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
as we do the historic trails, let them, give them my number or my email. I would love to talk to them about that. Could be a really neat plaque or part of a walking tour that you guys do in Westminster.
The nice thing is your little open space there is a bump out and you could actually have 10, 15 people gather and not fall into the street like the rest of that area. You know, it's all so close. You can't even really have a group tour there easily.
Yeah, we would love to. They could meet there and start the walking tour. Something like that would be fun. If that's ever something you guys wanted to put together.
Great. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna get a vote. All in favor indicate by saying aye. So it's by consensus that we accept your concept, your plan, no questions, no concerns so far. I appreciate you coming through and I appreciate city staff even thinking about us. It's not doing things different. So that's great. So, thank you. Okay, are we ready to move on? And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting, but
Well, I'm happy to stay for a bit and I might slip out if I have to.
well, our next topic is National History Day. And that's coming up fast and furious in February. Usually they ask for a judge or two from our group. Also in the past, we've been part of National History Day officially because we're part of the Celebrate of America group that the county fosters. And if we'd like, we can have a little information table that we can man on that day as a matter of outreach. And the last couple of years, it seems to have been crosswise to people's calendars. But if you like, I can get us some more information and we can consider manning a table again.
Where's it held?
It's almost always held at the high school.
What was the date?
You know what? I have to look that up, so I would know. I can't quick find it.
You said February?
Okay, so it's
This Saturday.
always Saturday, February 25th. Is that a Saturday?
Yes.
That's when it's gonna be. They're gonna also have a local history day / history expo. So that's where we could have a table. And again, we can be as involved as we want to be. We could have a table and just throw literature out. And come back and collect it up later if we want, or we can man it. Usually they ask us if we have somebody who'd like to judge. And every organization usually gets at least one chance to have a judge. Last year, they didn't really ask us, but I think they will. We say we want to judge. And it's, you know, a good chance to reach out to young people. Oh, we also offer a prize. The prize is, in the past, it's been a letter of recommendation. Doesn't sound like much, but when kids are competing for college places, that kind of a letter is an important certificate kind of recommendation. And our category has always been, and is this year, local historic architecture. So if someone chose to write about the Opera House or chose to write about how important walkability is to historic districts or wanted to talk about your property specifically, any of that would fall within the purview of us being able to give them an award. Unfortunately, National History Day tends to focus on national themes. So 2 years ago, it was communication and everybody focused on the development of the free rural coastal routes up in Union Mills was one of the stories. One of them was the lost order 191 from Antietam. So they tend to be these big national things that'll compete well. And so our little award hasn't been given for years because we haven't had anybody apply for it. Maybe next year we'll have to think about actually stepping it up and adding cash. You put $100 on, kids will write about it. It's just a thought for next year's budget. So the 25th, I will come back to you in January for sure, asking for hands up and what we might want to do. Any questions or concerns? No? All right. Great, so we usually go through the historic district commissioners to ask what historic preservation plans they've been working on in the last month or so, or what organizations are having activities. And then we hit up the staff and ask if there's anything specific they want to report on. So let's start with Chris.
Nothing. To
So you're
report.
moving to a historic home.
Yes, yes, that.
Josh,
No updates for me.
no updates from you. Okay, let's see. I think I really don't have anything new other than, waiting on the implementation plan. With bated breath. So,
Unfortunately, I have a comment. People have approached me because they know I'm on the historic district. 147 East Green Street. They put up a commercial sign bigger than the TV that says they lease apartments. So I said, my thought, I talked to people that were approaching me. I said, we have a sign ordinance, so I'll bring it up to the whole town committee. But part of me says it's a residential section. I didn't make any comments because I wouldn't be authorized to. So I just bring it to your all attention. 147. Now, you have to drive by and see it, and you then can see what happens. I don't know. Other than that, life is good.
well, I'm suspecting that it still might have commercial comp plan on it because I live off of Main Street and I'm still under commercial. So we'll ask Mr. Depot to look into that.
It's a residential zone. It's R 7500. So the first question is it allowed to be a multifamily dwelling? And are they licensed to be multifamily?
It's been there probably 30 years.
As a multifamily?
Yeah,
Okay.
as apartments, and the new owners, I think, are more gracious than anybody. So I didn't know how we would approach that because it is a commercial sign. Now, the city might grant it to be there, but it is as big as a TV screen. I would guess 4 by 8 feet, and it has 2 4-by-4 posts. Now, I live 2 doors away. I didn't even know it was there. I exit and entrance the back, so I never out front.
So I think what we'll do is we'll leave it to the city. They have a sign commission. And so I'm sure they'll review it and do what's appropriate.
Good.
Speaking of the sign commission, Mark, can you give us an update on what's going on with that?
So, as was mentioned, we're short staffed, so we did have we hired an outside person to do part-time work, only 8 hours a month, so, a month. And there were other elements, initially, he was helping with, the parking study for downtown. That's now, I don't know if we are aware of that, we just started that study, we had it's a little sidetrack, I apologize, they were counting vehicles this last Thursday and Saturday, the parking lots, trying to get an idea of how much parking in that element for this beginning of the study. But now he's completed that aspect, so now he's doing the sign ordinance, so he has the information, he's going through what was provided by the sign committee. And this person has a lot of experience with ordinances, especially with its new code or new standards. So hope I get some good feedback to make sure that at least it's legal and can meet legal standards. So that's what I have him looking at. And then anything else that he's seen in other jurisdictions that we missed, that could be a good discussion topic. So once I get those comments back to the sign committee, for I think hopefully a final review and discussion, and then move forward with the text amendment.
Okay, thanks. That was my question, because I think we met like 2 times and we reviewed and we edited and then so now he is reviewing that, and so that was the next step. It just took all that time because if you couldn't find it, okay, I mean, the city couldn't find anybody. Okay, all right, that's good to know.
So Kevin, are you completed with your?
No, one other comment. I thoroughly enjoyed Up and From. I thought it was a great way of us connecting with our counterparts at the county, and it created good dialogue. So again, thank you for having us attend there, but also your insight that we should attend.
Absolutely. I gotta say, Westminster was well represented. We had a big pack of people, and so that was great. Usually that organization is dominated by Washington County, so we showed, and I'm glad for that. Great, well, thank you, Kevin.
Can I ask a question of the staff?
Yeah, we're moving to them next.
I
Figured it out.
I'm wondering if, Mark, you and your group could give us any updates on the demolition, on Main Street, where our favorite log cabin, looks like it's still the same as ever. I just want to get any updates on that project.
Yeah, we're actually looking at that as well, as we always do. It's down to the log cabin essentially, so if you go by, you see that he has somebody that, again, that's gonna come along and try to dismantle it so he can repurpose some of those logs. Any of the ones that are fairly in decent shape, there's not too many of them. So he does have that lined up, I'm not sure when. The debris in the field, in the back of the lot, his thought is to use that debris into the hole where the basement is as the stabilize for fill, essentially. So that's what that debris is still doing there. It's more solid. I'm checking to make sure that's
Doesn't
viable.
even sound, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm checking on that. I've seen it done before, but typically not to that standard. So I want to make sure that is valid. If it is, then we're working how we can secure the debris. If it isn't, then we're going to work to remove the debris.
So essentially, he's not sticking to any of his original conditions with our year ago.
Well, the condition was that he would use the log, so the question is.
No, actually, the condition was that he would save 25% of that building.
Right, but that's
Save
my
it in
point, but it's.
situ, not
Right, if this
save it
is,
somewhere
it
else.
sounds like I'm agreeing with you that it sounds like a different plan, that we don't have any assurance that he's using what's there.
Well, even so, once you rip those logs out, how does it
Also-
benefit the city of Westminster?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna make a note that. Well, first of all, I'm not happy with the state of it or the proposed plan. But I would also note that I would rather that be dismantled and given to, one of our historic museums in town than just. if we don't have any assurance that they're actually going to use it, I worry about what could happen to them, and I'd rather them go to the farm museum or
I
something.
have a bigger question. To do any work, don't you need a permit?
It's still in the demo permit stage. So he's not doing construction yet, a new development.
How long does that last?
How
That's-
long?
Does that last?
And I talked to the county today, they are reaching out to him because it has been a certain amount of time. I didn't get a time frame. So they are gonna reach out to him about the lapse of movement or the non-movement of the property.
I mean, to me, repurposing the logs. It's just a loss. I mean, there's no way anyone in the city of Westminster benefits from the loss of that structure. They make money off of selling it to someone else or cutting it up into paperweights or whatever they plan on doing. But that doesn't really mitigate the damage to our historic area. And to me, that I don't find that as apples to apples. I actually find that to be, no different than a total demo. And that's really not what we agreed to.
Now, I am not too smart, but I thought there was agreement, or we talked about saving some of the structure and incorporate it into new plan. And I thought when we had a meeting, they said there would be part of the structure. I am totally against having a clean site, so then they can do anything they want. I know that we have new site plans, but to me, saving as much of the historic fabric and incorporate that, I think, is what we are all about. And also, I'm upset that we don't have any teeth to do something.
But it seems the rules have changed and we're not a part of that discussion. Somehow the goal post has been moved. And I don't see us having agreed to that at all.
And why is that? Like, I'm not asking you, but I'm asking, why does it seem like they're just doing what they want again and not following what they agreed to?
I think, Kevin hit the nail on the head, that I don't have any regulatory power to say, you provided recommendations, part of the demo permit, there's nothing that I could have conditioned the demo permit on to make them do that. That's where my time ends once the demo permit's issued, it follows to the county. If he wants to have the whole thing down, there's not much I can do about that. And they did, again, I think I mentioned this some time ago, they did have a company that actually uses timbers and came to the property, looked at it, and they said there wasn't much of value in it, and to preserve or to reuse. And talking to Dean Cameron, the same thing. If the structure and the logs are damaged enough, really can't incorporate them into the new structure.
I remember you talking to us about that last spring, but my concern was that company had an inbuilt conflict of interest, right? They wanted to buy the logs, so of course they're gonna say they can't stay here.
It wasn't for purchase. He was gonna give them the logs. He was not selling the logs. He was trying to at least provide some preservation of those logs. He was not looking at purchasing or selling them. They had this company come in because it benefits him. His cost savings is not having somebody else come in and dismantle and remove. This company comes in, does it, and then they repurpose it throughout other buildings, historic buildings.
But I guess my concern is they had no expertise in building in situ, and I felt like that was the wrong group. That was the group to bring into demo, not the group to come in and see how to create preservation opportunities. And although I understand that those logs alone are not standard building materials, there's plenty of ways of bridging stuff. I did this at the Park Service all the time. They would bridge over rotted wood, they would shore up stuff so that you literally had envelopes around historic property. It's possible. It's not your cheapest option, but it certainly is possible. Now, it's been exposed for a year. It's perhaps so far gone that it's no longer possible.
Is it, did they take half of that down and the other half is up? Like, I'm confused now when I go by, because it looks like. Was it one, or were there two?
So
Two separate-
originally, when they started demo, they pulled down the back part.
Yes.
And so there are only really 3 standing intact structures. The back was pretty much demoed immediately.
Okay,
And as they cleaned it up, you can see how much damage that initial demo did.
right, when he came, okay, so it's just, because it,
3 out of 4 left.
So, I mean, again, as you just very succinctly said, it's been uncovered for a year. I mean, the odds of anything are very slim. I will again say 2 things. One, that if they do decide to take it all down and move it, my hope is that something historic could happen with that, whether that's giving to historic society of some kind or somebody, some stakeholder, versus just being sewn up and used as paperweights, sure. The second thing that I'll say is I think this goes to our earlier discussion around, our planning about, you, Mark, very succinctly said, we don't have teeth here. That's what started almost a year of conversation around this document. I have invited the mayor to come to this discussion. I think numerous ones of us have invited city council to come. We have put this proposal in front of Sarah months ago. And for us again to be told that she won't even review the memo for another couple months, deeply frustrating. And it makes me question whether I should continue on this commission. I like everybody here, I like you guys. I don't even have complaints necessarily with Sarah and Mona and the rest of city government. But this is a deeply dysfunctional process and it should not be this difficult to read a proposal.
I second that, absolutely.
And she has reviewed it, so we had that conversations about the proposal and implementation plan.
But we have gotten no
So she
feedback.
has like that.
And that would have been the courteous thing to do. Is to get feedback. Because we're all frustrated, as you know. And this will continue to happen. If we don't get the show on the road. With this. So I have another question since Kevin brought that property up. I remember when we were reviewing, Mr. Knox, is that his name, wanted to build apartments or something. So how do we know that, that's what he's going to build, or he's going to scrap that and decide he's gonna build what we've, I'm like what,
What permitting is
well,
needed?
yeah,
for
what I
this build?
mean, since everything else is just out the window, that could go out the window too.
It's again, he can build anything that's allowed on the property, whether it's apartments, commercial, so he's still subject to the uses that are allowed in the zoning ordinance. If he picks a special exception use, that would go to the Board of Zoning Appeals first for approval, and then they still have to do a full-blown site plan that goes to the planning commission. It's a by right use, it's a site plan to the planning commission. But even before that, as I mentioned, we would bring those architectural plans to the HDC for comment. So we don't have anything yet. He submitted a concept that we all saw. That's the last thing I saw. They're still trying to work out some of the nuances, I believe, of how to fit a parking lot in the back and to meet standards of the city. So I've been in communication with the engineer about parking. That's about it. So I question why it's taken as long as well.
Well, Mark, please put in your calendar, I'm going to Germany, August 3rd through the 17th. Don't do anything important then. Good Lord, let's get this right before that.
Can we expedite this somehow? I mean, can we, nail something down for January, like this week, a date or something?
I will talk to Ms. Imhoff to see if I can actual specific date and time.
Thank you. All right, so we never really asked staff if they had any comments. All we did was jump down their throats, so.
Well, I was looking at this, the 2023 Carroll County History Day. And it was interesting. I was going through all the listed participants and what they're offering. And it does say Westminster Historic District Commission letters of recognition awarded to each division.
Yep,
So we are listed, so I would hope if we're listed, we will take part of that and provide those. We do have funding in the HDC budget for this year, so we could, if there's something.
too late, too late. The announcements all went out in August. Yeah, these kids are supposed to have been working on these projects for weeks and months. At this point, we're now looking at and you know, they hope to compete locally and go on to the state and the nationals. So this is like, this behemoth is, but for next year, it'd be great to have us decide we want to give them $100 in each division. There's only 2 divisions.
I mean, I'm talking about the letters of recognition, if there's any cost to that, or if you want to frame those or do something, anything.
Oh, something.
unique. That's what I'm talking about, something like that versus just me printing out a letter of recognition. If there's something nice, you might.
I heard the logs. A letter in
Some stamp lettering into the logs and
a building in town.
We could talk about that, especially if we get any kids applying. It would be great for like the mayor and city council to, you know, make the award. I mean, when we have kids apply to the historical society, we usually make it a big photo event, if nothing else, that we can put on our Facebook.
I'm just questioning what the outreach is like, so how could we encourage students to apply?
So the kids have a huge, how this works is in August, the social studies director of the high school puts it out on this website. It's National History Day 2023, and that's probably exactly what Mark's looking at. And what it does, it puts out all the themes, puts out where you can find these resources. So, you know, with communications, and they usually say, well, here's some themes like communications that change the world, like, you know, civil rights marching, that's communication. Where can you find it? Oh, well, there's great archives over at such and such a place, or there's good resources over at the public library in this place. So in August, it goes out, so when kids come back, the social studies teachers are talking about it to them in September. And then they should be doing research September, October, November. So if we're going to do some kind of outreach independent of what Celebrate America already does, September is the key time to do that.
When are the essays due?
So they usually hit sometime in January, and then they get uploaded so that the judges can just read this stuff at home. And then the judging has to happen on the 25th.
Do you know if it's early January or late January?
Late. Why, do you know a student who might want to?
No, I was just thinking to Mark's earlier point about an award. A month is still a fair amount of time to put a spit shine on
All this stuff is preloaded, and the kids have made their decisions of what they're going after, what organization they're going after.
Okay.
I hate to say this. It's preloaded into the national database on what we are offering. It's pretty layered to change it enough at this point. But I will say there's some airborne group that offers $500 every year as their prize. And I bet there's some kid who writes about whatever airborne thing they want, attenuate to the theme. Just because that's a chunk of change to motivate a kid.
One more thought I had, let's brainstorm and get our proposal ready for when we have the street fair that we monitor and hand out then for next year. And nothing wrong with my thought If we had two divisions, make it 250 a division. And that way we are competitive. Also, to me, we are just getting out to the younger people about historic preservation. I think we need to go slow to build up.
Yeah, I have to say, the Historical Society and their gift to winners is free membership, which is worth about $55 a year to a kid. That's the value, and then $25 gift certificate, which is probably more motivating.
Nothing wrong with membership or 25. To me, that doesn't even carry their monthly phone bill. So to me, that's not any incentive.
Sure. Well,
But
I think,
as you know, I'm cheap to begin with.
yeah,
So it might be for me, but not them.
well, we don't have any memberships to offer, so I definitely agree that we can probably do better. In the past, we've also handed out like West Monopoly games and things like that to winners of sweepstakes. We used to have a scavenger hunt that we had little gifts from Main Street that we handed out. So, you know, we haven't done that in so long, probably a decade.
I'm too do.
All right, so Mark, did we finish with your staff report before we cut you off again?
Yeah, I have nothing else to add.
All right. Anything from you? You're new.
I am new, so I've been digging through what we have, and I found some historic tours of Westminster. Just, you know, trying to learn the history since I'm fairly new. I grew up in Mount Airy on the Frederick County side,
Oh,
and was more familiar with Frederick, you know, than Westminster growing up. But then moved here and a few years ago, and then I live in Tawnytown now. So consider myself a local, but still a newbie to learn a lot about the city. So yeah, just trying to see how I can fit in here and help with updating any of those things too.
so probably your two most key resources to get your hands on is Christopher Week's book on the building of Westminster.
Okay.
It's out of print, but it was a city product. I mean, the city,
City
that for the-
has a CD from, she can access it on CD.
CD-ROM, but it, go find a used copy somewhere. Because it's good to have it right on your desk, reminding you all the time of the Westminster, building of Westminster. That was our bicentennial effort to record this, all the history of the city.
Awesome.
And that was our baseline, 1,400 structures. And that kicked off the state inventory, which was done, and that's what those CARR numbers are. CAR, Carroll County, it's a state inventory, so we have a national register inventory that matches the state inventory. So if you can get your hands in the Weeks book or a CD, if they even have CD readers anymore,
Right?
It's online,
or
it's online.
online, but that is your first step. Then there's also a really good history of Westminster that you can buy at the Historical Society. Buy one of those. Those are your two best inventories. Now, if you want me to tell you what's missing, you and I should go to lunch because there's a lot missing, like Corbett's Church. Just never made it because it wasn't a building. There's a toe stone that marks the difference between Baltimore County and Frederick County. Just on that property behind Main Street and Manchester. There's zero protection for that. I know who owns it right now. They don't have to do anything about this. The boundary stone could be moved tomorrow. So to me, there's a lot of missing holes in our preservation plan here. And I can tell you all that too.
Oh, be nice. We should go to one.
All right.
And look, as economic development coordinator. She's also responsible for the social media that we're doing, which I don't know if you paid attention, but it's much better than it has been in the past. And that is all thanks to Melissa.
We're getting out there a little bit
So-
more than we were.
So we're getting more information out than we have in the past. So if there are things that the HTC would like that we could provide and inform, just let us know so we can just keep that going.
You know, we actually have our own Facebook.
No,
We do. And the only people who post to it are people we don't want posting to it. So it's, we should take a quick look at that.
oh, yeah.
We have a lot of different sites that we're wondering who created them and who manages them. People have left, so that's where we are right now, trying to gather everything.
We
And,
might want to close it down if it's not an official channel, because it really looks like one.
and the other good thing too is we've been working on a survey with downtown businesses. And we're trying to get a good foundation of all the businesses downtown that we can then eventually map and track and involve them. We have the Downtown Business Association, which certainly we're working on. That's only, I think, about a year in on that, so it's still fairly new. But the hope would be, and we talked a little bit about this, once we create that map of the businesses, we can then expand the map to include property information about historic properties out of the Weeks book. And so it's that foundation of having this downtown kind of,
I would so
Plan.
love a property owner like Amy to be able to touch the map and know what I told her tonight before she buys the property.
and that's the dream at some point that anybody could, that, you know, they want to find out the history of property that has it, it's listed, or just who the business is and contact for the business, not direct phone numbers. But again, this is lofty goals, but we're starting the foundation right now, trying to make sure we have all the businesses downtown and contacts for the businesses. So it'll take some time, but we are moving towards that type of product.
Terrific. Thank you so much. There's also, it says public comments. Do you have anything you want to share with us before we move to adjourn?
No, I've learned a lot though, so we really needed the business community to be involved in the history preservation and walks and awards for kids in schools, and I mean, if there's a way to connect downtown business meetings and history projects at school, and we kind of neat.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential.
Yeah, could be really cool. So no, I enjoyed the meeting.
Definitely. All right, thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. And no one's opposed to it. I want to thank everybody very much for their evening tonight.
The corporate coffee is pretty cool.